Butcher of the Horde feels new-ish because we haven't seen it very much, but there's also Drana, Liberator of Malakir, a card I know many are excited about as we're underway here in round number 2.
And I think this is going to be a solid matchup for Aintrazi. Draper's deck is not especially fast. It's really good at mucking up the game and invalidating opposing creatures and so forth, but his clock is not all that fast. So if Aintrazi has a good ramp start, Draper doesn't respond to that very well.
Draper will start things off by sacrificing a Bloodstained Mire. He's down to 19. We'll see what land he wants to get here. It's going to be a swamp. Perhaps a discard spell on the way. Despise a card that looks to be pretty popular here this weekend.
Yeah, will be interesting to see how the discard spells of the format evolve because you no longer have Thoughtseize. You can just cram in any deck.
Oh, thankfully.
Yes, you now have to choose between things like Despise or Duress if you want that sort of option. Some 2-mana spells as well.
A Despise is here. Aintrazi's hand does have a copy of Ulamog in it. There's also Radiant Flames there, and Nissa's Pilgrimage, and a couple of lands here. Bloodstained Mire, a Swamp, also a copy of Smoldering Marsh. Gonna test me on these new land names. I'm ready. I'm ready. No longer do I get to say Temple of X, Hill Scry. That's gone. Out of my vocabulary for now. Now I gotta get these new lands down. Nissa was the draw. Just a swamp, and Aintrazi will pass the turn back over to Draper. I know that one. That's No Man Outpost. That one's easy.
Still got it.
Yeah, that one's easy. There's a Smoldering Marsh, which enters the battlefield untapped thanks to the 2 basics. And now here's Nissa's Pilgrimage. There's a forest. And now you can search for another forest. No spell master here for Ali, but still, I mean, playing a Kadama's Reach.
Some ramps, some card advantage.
Yep. What's the best way to build an Eldrazi deck? We'll find out over the next couple of weeks. But this is really a strategy that's really in Ali's wheelhouse.
And it's trying to capitalize on all the slower obs-on and you know, bringing to light various 4 and 5 color strategies by going way bigger. And Ulamog might be the biggest thing to be doing.
Bloodstained Mire, and now a Nissa, which if you think about it, given where Ali's at with his mana, not very hard card to flip in his deck.
No, not at all. And this is the concern that I have in the matchup here for Draper is just he doesn't put on a lot of pressure and he's trying to sit back on removal spells. And something like Ulamog could just chew him up.
Yeah.
Even if he can kill it straight away.
Crackling Doom will take care of the Nissa. The choice there for Dylan, he had the option to cast Wild Slash on this, but he went with Crackling Doom to be a little bit more, I suppose, mana efficient. But, you know, Crackling Doom seems like a card that's pretty useful in this matchup. You already saw an Ulamog in your opponent's hand. Yeah,
I don't know exactly what Aintrazi is up to, but I imagine that Crackling Doom will be good against whatever he's trying to set up.
Yeah. Bloodstained Mire, Ali's going to sacrifice that. You saw a Seeker of the Way there for Draper, but he did miss his 4th land drop. He has a copy of Butcher of the Horde in hand, but can't cast it just yet.
Doesn't feel like there's a ton of Wild Slash targets in Aintrazi's deck.
I don't think so. Ali not the type to play things that die to Wild Slash.
No. Maybe a mana elf here or there, but it's going to be rare.
Ali subscribes to the theory that bigger is better.
Yeah,
he goes to the top rope.
Right.
Quite a bit.
Whatever the biggest thing is to be doing, that's what he's going to do.
Time for Aintrazi to draw. Looks like he picked up another copy of Nissa. There's also a copy of Hangerback Walker in hand. Can't forget that one exists.
Nope. I mean, a lot of articles that I saw from SCG writers who were talking about what they thought of the new format had deck lists, or nearly all of their deck lists, with 4 Hangerback Walkers. Yeah. I'm not saying that's necessarily correct, but some people definitely perceive that this is just going to be the thing going into every aggressive and mid-range deck.
Ali thought about getting another copy of Smoldering Marsh. He's considering something different now. See what land he wants to search up with the Bloodstained Mire. Oh, look at that.
Sunken Hollow.
Yes. Look at all the things you can do.
So a good shorthand is your fetch land cannot tutor for the shared colors enemy. So black and red Bloodstained Mire cannot get white mana.
Correct.
Flooded Strand cannot get red mana.
That's the shorthand. That's the easy way to look at it.
But otherwise you can, if you want to build your deck that way, get any other color of mana you want.
Hangerback Walker for 3 there for Aintrazi. Going to be difficult for Draper to get through.
For example, your Flooded Strand can get a Canopy Vista for green or a Sunken Hollow for black.
Makes sense.
But you can't get red.
No,
So there you go.
at least not yet.
Not yet. If these battle lands get filled out, there's the full 10, then it's all bets are off.
Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
Anything you want.
Here comes Seeker of the Way. See if Aintrazi has some interest in blocking here. It is interesting taking a look at Dylan's hand. He's going to play Wild Slash. It's going to go upstairs. Seeker of the Way will get +1/+1 and lifelink. It looks like these two cards are going to trade, even though it doesn't feel like much of one.
Because it isn't.
Yeah.
That's why it feels like that.
Yeah. Dylan, actually the one having mana issues here, he's got a copy of Hordeling Outburst in his hand that he can't cast. Meanwhile, Ali can cast literally whatever he wants with no issues whatsoever. But double red for Draper? No, not even close. Now here's a Hangerback Walker as a follow-up, just a 1/1. Pass the turn back. Aintrazi will draw. Looks like a Ravaged Highlands, but actually it's a Wooded Foothills, pardon me. Thopters are going to come into the red zone. Draper going to fall down to 17. Is there a follow-up here for Ali? Looks like he's pretty land heavy and then just has a copy of Radiant Flame, so he just has to pass the turn back. Looking for a payoff. He's got quite a few of them in his deck. Just hasn't drawn one yet. Hangerback Walker going to hang out on defense, looking to charge up. Aintrazi will sacrifice that Foothills. We'll see what land he wants to dig out of the deck here. I'll go with Canopy Vista.
Yeah, you can see a lot of dragons. A couple copies of Ugin in his deck as well. A lot of big draws. I would say even Hedron Archive qualifies at this point.
Yeah, and draw some cards.
I'll pay 6 to draw 2 in Aintrazi's spot.
And we'll see what Ali draws this turn. Does he find a payoff? The answer is no. Checking the graveyard for Spell Mastery as he drew a copy of Nissa's Pilgrimage. So he will cast that. And a couple Forest on the way. Assuming he's got enough left in his deck.
I think he's playing a total of 7.
Yeah, he's got some in his hand right now. All right. He did all right there.
More thinning, but still no action.
Yeah, I mean, we're right in Ulamog range now for Ali. And if that shows up to the party, Draper's going to have a pretty difficult time winning the game. Land for the turn is a Forest. Here come the Thopter tokens. One's going to hang back on defense. Draper will fall down to 15. He'll charge up the Hangerback Walker and untap.
That's a spot there where I think if I was at Draper, I would have Wild Slash the untapped Thopter, because then if you draw a land for Butcher, things are very, very good. As it stands, Aintrazi would have gotten to chump block.
Yeah. If I'm Dylan, you know, I want to set myself up as best as possible to try to get this game over with. I don't want to play any more turns because I know what Ali's doing is he's trying to draw something big. If he draws that something big, things are looking bad for me. And he drew a spell this turn. We just got to see what it's going to be. He's got to search the deck for something. What? It's an Explosive Vegetation.
Oh.
There we go. It took me a second. Wondering what that was. A lot of ramp in his deck. 2 copies of Explosive Vegetation this weekend. Now this one's got a storied past.
Was in a, not in a Pro Tour winning deck, but in the top 4, I believe, William Huey Jensen. A deck designed by Brian Kibler, Pro Tour Venice.
Yeah.
An iconic match in the top 4 between William and Osip Levidovic, the eventual champion.
This green-white deck?
Yes.
I remember ramping into a Chroma,
Yes.
some other things. This was when I was a young man reading Pro Tour coverage. Hangerback Walker going to tick up to a 3/3. Has he found a 4th land yet? Yes. With a little gusto. Now it's time for Butcher the Horde.
Though he is costing himself, this is the setup I was talking about last turn. He had another opportunity to Wild Slash at the end step of Aintrazi's last turn, and now this Butcher play is a lot less effective than it would have been.
Yeah.
Still not bad, but he cost himself a lot of damage.
Sacrifice Hanger Back Walker, predictably. 3 Thopters on the way. Butcher the Horde going to get haste here. But as you mentioned, because he has not cast Wild Slash on a Thopter token, wouldn't be surprised to see Ali chump block immediately, and that means he missed out on 5 points of damage. And with these other tokens out there, you have to imagine those are going to play defense against Butcher the Horde as well. So Aintrazi will draw a copy of Radiant Flames.
Not great in this setup. I guess he can Radiant Flames twice and get rid of the Butcher. Not an easy way to do it, but I think Aintrazi's going to wait to try to get a little bit more, especially with Draper having missed so many land drops. His hand's got to be all spells. I think Aintrazi has to squeeze a little bit more out of Radiant Flames in this spot.
Here's 3 mana. That's Kolaghan's command. Kill an artifact, deal 2 damage to the other one. Let's do some damage here. That's 8 points of damage. Now Aintrazi is going to have to pull the trigger on the double Radiant Flames unless he draws something better. See what he finds.
But even Ulamog is not great here.
No. Now what he did draw for the turn was a copy of Dragonlord Dramoka, which is pretty interesting. And Ali's got plenty of mana to do what he wants. So first things first, I think, will be Radiant Flames.
I think Aintrazi is trying to see if he has enough mana to do everything.
Which I think he does.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think he's got mana to spare, actually.
He's done quite a bit of ramping and color fixing this game. So step 1, Radiant Flames for 3. And that'll deal 3 to everything on the battlefield. And now another Radiant Flames will deal 3 to everything else. And now here's Dragonlord Dramoka. And now pass the turn back, and Dylan will have to have an answer for this. Picked up another copy of Wild Slash. Now keep in mind, earlier in the game, Dylan did cast a Crackling Doom on a Nissa as opposed to a Wild Slash. And now it looks like he's going to be coming up a little bit short.
I think there were a couple spots here for Draper to be a little bit more efficient or selective with certain text boxes. And you can see Aintrazi at 5. Dragonlord Dramoka is capable of winning the game all by itself in the spot.
Absolutely.
Draper doesn't have an answer card. You know, he could be losing here with 4 or 5 spells in his hand.
You know, one thing, you talk about all the new cards from Battle for Zendikar, and they're all big and flashy, but we can't forget about the Dragon Lords.
No.
They're all awesome.
And they were showing up, basically all of them were showing up to varying degrees.
Yeah.
And there's less competition now because there was a big rotation and a lot of sets have just left.
So we can't forget about how powerful this card is. Looks like Wild Slash is going to go upstairs. Put Aintrazi down to 3.
That turn is not going to cut it.
No, I don't think so. Going to do it a lot better than that. Here comes Dragonlord Dramoka. And the thing is, he's got to cast the Wild Slash now because you can't play spells on your opponent's turn when Dragonlord Dramoka's on the battlefield. So that turn, not great there for Dylan, but it's the only thing he can do. And now here's Dragonlord Atarka. So Aintrazi was flooding. Now he's not. He may not have drawn Eldrazi, but he's drawn Dragon Lords, and I think this first game is going to go to him. Oh, another Wild Slash.
Nice. Nice.
Ali Eldrazi's going to win game number 1 here over Dylan Draper. 5-color Eldrazi up a game over Mardu midrange. We take a look at the sideboards here, and we will start with Dylan at his Mardu midrange deck. Let's see what he's got over there.
3 copies of Roast, 2 copies of Gideon's Reproach, 3 copies of Soulfire Grandmaster, 2 Read the Bones, a Painful Truth, a Mardu Charm, an Utter End, and 2 copies of Outpost Siege. I can get behind Read the Bones and Painful Truths in this kind of matchup. His removal spells are not that well situated. I think the 1 copy of Utter End can come in pretty easily, but Mardu Charm does not kill a lot of stuff, and I don't think he can play a late game powerful enough for something like Outpost Siege to be relevant. I don't mind the extra card drawers because he's got some slow threats that are easy to sideboard out, but Outpost Siege feels a little too slow to me.
He's got to be the aggressor of the matchup. Yes. I don't think he wants to play a longer game at all here because Ali, as we've just seen, has the better longer game.
Yes, even if Draper is drawing some cards, Aintrazi's threats are worth several cards out of Draper.
For Aintrazi, he's got 2 copies of Naturalize, a Mob Rule, Seismic Rupture, a Dragonlord Dramoka, another copy in his sideboard, 2 copies of Dragonlord Salumgar, a Dragonlord Ojutai. Hey, 4 Siege Rhinos just hanging out on the board. That's new. A Crux of Fate and Utter End and an Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
I like Crux, Utter End, the Ugin. I also like, I'm not a big fan of Dragon Lord Ojutai in the matchup, but I can get behind Slumgar and Dramoka. I would not bring in the Siege Rhinos. I feel like that's more of a way to shore up his matchup against decks like Atarka Red and landfall strategies.
I have to ask Ali about the Siege Rhinos on the board here.
Because he's making several concessions in his mana base. I suppose that he wants to play 3 colors anyway for Radiant Flames. And once you're at 3 colors, it's not that hard to add the 4th. So Siege Rhino looks a little odd, given that this is a ramp to Ulamog deck that appears to be just red-green on the base. But it's not that hard for him to add the 4th color once he's added the 3rd.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2. Dylan will be on the play with his Mardu mid-range deck, and we will very quickly talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page, where you can be one of over 70,000 subscribers.
Yeah, you can head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames and subscribe today. A lot of content goes up on the YouTube page, like Versus Series and Premium Archives, Open Series Archives, and some content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxings. Again, head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames. Sign up now for free and get a notification when new content is uploaded to the site.
Like the replays of this year's tournament, which I think is going to be something a lot of people want to see, because if the first couple of games are any indication, we saw Jerry Thompson last round against the landfall deck, and now Aintrazi with his crazy 5-color Aintrazi deck. We've got a lot of watchable content here.
And if you look at our coverage numbers, or pay attention to that kind of stuff, week 1 of new standard, that's when people are at their most interested in the Magic community, see what's going on.
They are very interested. And I am too. This is my favorite tournament to cover.
Yes.
The Players' Championship invitations, all that stuff are great. Doing Grand Prix are great. But this one tournament where the new big set comes in and stuff rotates out, no idea what you're going to see.
And it's really fun, not only to watch this weekend, but from sort of a retrospective standpoint, going back 3 months later and seeing what people are playing. You know, you see some decks where it's like, oh, this person actually had a kernel of a good idea week 1. And then you see some decks in the top 8 and top 16 where you think to yourself, whoa, there's just no way you could play something like that now.
Yeah. Always fun to see the evolution. Ali Aintrazi, our Season 2 Invitational Champion. We mentioned we're going to see him at the Players' Championship at the end of the year. Loves to brew, but a lot of success with his brewing. 2 Invitational top 8s with a win earlier this year. 10 Open Series top 8s with 2 Ws on the resume. Self-proclaimed, even though you debate this, I know you guys have had a conversation, best mixtape creator.
Yeah, impossible just by age.
Professional teddy bear namer.
Didn't know that was a job.
Which is not impossible. I'm not sure how well it pays.
Sure.
And former U.S. national champion, actually the last U.S. national champion, because then they cut nationals out as a program, so he is still the defending U.S. national champion.
United States champion in perpetuity until they bring that tournament back.
From Matthews, North Carolina, made the drive out here this weekend. I did see on social media, he said, I hope everyone's safe from the hurricane that's kind of taking place around the area. But I'm out of here. I got to go play some Magic. Off to a good start this weekend. And this 5-color Eldrazi deck, you know Ali, you know he loves to brew, and you know he loves to ramp. There's a lot going on with this thing. We didn't see any Eldrazi that game, but what we did see, the Dragon Lords, still powerful, no doubt about it. Ramping in a Hangerback Walker, powerful thing to be doing. He did that this game, or that previous game. Nissa, it seems really easy for him to flip in his deck.
The ramping is a lot different now. Before you had some very explosive but fragile mana creatures like Elvish Mystic, and I mean Rattleclaw Mystic's still legal, not on Aintrazi's deck. Aintrazi's deck is much more slow and steady in the way that it's ramping. It's not going to be cranking out these turn 4 huge plays like we were used to with Nykthos strategies, but his mana is much harder to disrupt than the ramp decks we saw from the previous season, where a lot of it was hinged on mana creatures, and you know we saw matchups where the first couple of mana creatures got killed and the deck couldn't really do anything. Not going to be happening for Aintrazi's list nearly the same frequency.
One of the things that takes place in Zendikar formats as well, at least it feels this way, is that the ramping is done through lands. It's not done through mana accelerants, and as you take a look at the mana accelerants that are available in the format, no more Elvish Mystic, Caryatid's gone, stuff like that. So it's kind of a different world that we live in here.
And I think that's on purpose. I think R&D wants, when we have a set that's about lands and landfall as a mechanic, let's have the mana acceleration synergize with those keywords and those mechanics.
Yep.
Elvish Mystic plus landfall is not really, that's not really a combo.
That's not really landfall.
But explosive vegetations in landfall, now you got a stew going.
Dylan to take a mulligan, so he'll take a look at 6 cards, see if he can find a better hand here. We know at least he's got Nomad Outpost in hand.
I think it's a 1-lander, and Dylan's on the play here, and his deck needs a lot of mana to function.
He is not the kind of aggressive strategy that can keep a 1-land hand. And he's going to go down to 5 cards now, taking a look at the top couple to see if he would have gotten there. I do think that Mardu is a deck that is, as you like to say, priced to move.
I mean, I think the deck gets improved a lot just by certain cards rotating out of the format. And Mardu never really struggled with beating beatdown decks. So you have Seeker of the Way, you have some cheap red removal, and you have some really good cards to play too. You have a fair bit of lifelink woven in the deck, or you have threats like Butcher the Horde and Wingmate Rock that can gain you some life. So that's never been the issue. It's just, can you build the list to be able to hang with other mid-range strategies? That's where I think the vulnerability was always with this deck. And with Hero's Downfall leaving the format, I think its haste threats are just a little bit better.
I'm very interested in a card like Butcher the Horde. I like Crackling Doom. I like Mardu Charm. Soulfire Grandmaster seems fairly good. Seeker of the Way seems fairly good. There's how to build this deck is hard. A card like Kolagon fits into 5 mana slot very, very well, where there might not be anything else there, but also there's Sark and the Dragon Speaker. A lot of options, of course, in Mardu, but I like a lot of the choices that you have available for this style of deck.
Another debut on the Open Series.
Oh, yeah?
New Scry rule in effect. The
Ooh,
Vancouver Mulligan.
Nice. I actually forgot about that. A Forest for Aintrazi, and we're underway here in game number 2. Bloodstained Mire will be sacrificed here by Dylan.
We saw no mulligans in our first match.
Yep.
So there's the debut.
I love the Vancouver Mulligan. Actually, I completely forgot that was a thing, so I'm actually kind of looking forward when I do get to play Magic again to doing that.
Because you loved a mulligan.
I do. Don't mind sending a hand back. Here's a Hangerback Walker for 1. Aintrazi will draw. Looks like he has a Hangerback Walker of his own. We're going to head back Draper's way. I believe Hordling Outburst was the draw. One thing that Dylan appears to be missing at this point is just white mana. But it looks like he can cast his spells, at least the ones that he does have off this mulligan to 5.
I think we're going to see a lot of Hordling Outbursts, for certainly for Atarka's Red style decks. But it's a card to me that takes a lot of splash damage from Hangerback Walker. Not very good against a hard cast Hangerback Walker. Also not that good against a Hangerback Walker that gets sacrificed or killed.
Yep.
And it wouldn't surprise me if ultimately Hordling Outburst receded from the metagame a fair bit. At least until there were fewer Hangerback Walkers floating around.
Which it's unclear if that will ever be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always going to be present to some degree, but I think week 1 here, Hangerback Walker is going to be in just a ton of decks while people figure out the format. And I think Hordling Outburst suffers as a consequence of that.
Bloodstained Mire going to search up a swamp here for Draper. The thing about Hangerback Walker is it's just so safe to play as people figure out how they want to build their decks. It's colorless, it's easy to cast, it's really powerful, so it's just going to kind of be in decks by default.
One of my favorite gray catchisms. If it's wrong, it's not by much.
Yeah. 3 goblins on the way here. Now we're going to head back over to Aintrazi. Canopy Vista the draw. 2 basics on the battlefield.
And these Battlelands are great for Aintrazi's deck. He's playing so many basics.
Yeah. Doesn't have a ton of Battlelands in his deck, but he does have quite a few basics, as you mentioned. 7 Forest, a Mountain, a Plains, a Swamp.
Whereas Thompson was, he's like a full throttle 5-color deck. Aintrazi is, at its base, 2 or 2.5 colors, but he's able to touch a 4th and 5th color for very little cost if he wants it.
Catacomb Sifter here for Ali. Scion token coming in as well. Now, Ali does have quite a few copies of this card in his deck. And it is devoid. It is a 2/3. Brings an Eldrazi sign along with it, and whenever another creature you control dies, scry 1.
A lot going on here for 3 mana.
Yep. Another Hangerback Walker there for Draper. No land to play. Ali going to sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire, fall down to 18. See what land he wants to search up.
And for those of you who have been crying about Elvish Mystic not being in the format anymore, that card that we saw Aintrazi just play, maybe not printable with Elvish Mystic as a card that's floating around.
Yeah, ramping into that. Yeah.
It might be, that could be the tipping point for that kind of card.
Sunken Hollow is what Aintrazi found, and now it's a Hedron Archive.
Yep.
So we're ramping. Draper will take a look at that one.
2 good deals.
4 mana, add 2 to your mana pool, or 2 mana and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. Definitely 2 good deals. This card's pretty exciting, actually.
Yep.
A lot of people comparing it to Thran Dynamo.
Or Sisei's Ring.
Sure, that too.
The original 4 tap for 2.
Yep. Sisei's Ring getting a shout out here.
Yeah.
I believe the one in Mirrodin was Golem's Eye,
I wouldn't know.
if memory serves. The archive is going to help charge up the Hangerback Walker. Haven of the Spirit Dragon, the draw. Aintrazi's got to like his positioning right now.
Mm-hmm.
Draper off to a slow start. He's got the ground locked up pretty well. Some Hangerback Walkers on the other side of the battlefield, but Ollie's got a high life total, plenty of cards in hand. Just wants to do something big here.
Yeah, the biggest issue is Aintrazi's a little vulnerable to the air right now.
Yeah.
But Draper's not doing anything up there, so for now things are fine. But if Draper finds Butcher the Horde, the equation changes very fast.
Indeed it does. Aintrazi thinking about playing a forest, and he will. Got a bunch of mana here. But what's he want to do with it is the question. Does have a copy of Dragonlord Dramoka in hand that he can cast.
And I think this might be an issue of, where do I want to start to try to bleed out Crackling Doom, and what am I ultimately playing for? If he has multiple dragons in hand.
Oddly enough, you can see not a ton going on here. And excuse me, that's not Dragonlord Dramoka, it's Dragonlord Slumgar. Pardon me. That's going to take the Hangerback Walker. Draper with a Battlefield Forge. It's going to take a lot more than Butcher the Horde now.
Yeah. Another issue here is that Draper grew the Hangerback Walker that was being stolen in response. Aintrazi gets to grow the other one. He can untap and grow the Hangerback Walkers, and suddenly those are the things that get sacrificed in the event that Draper finds Crackling Doom.
Yep.
So now Dragonlord Slumgar is totally safe. Draper's unlikely to ever get his Hangerback Walker back.
And he gets to scry one.
Yes.
Because the Catacomb Sifter, just for the big rub-ins.
Right.
Yeah.
In case all of this wasn't enough.
Yeah. The Sifter allows the scry.
Control magic on your best threat that you can't kill. If that wasn't bad enough, also, he gets to scry for 1.
Well, Utterend's not bad here. It's a nice way to get things done.
Sure.
Get the old Hangerback Walker back. Take care of the threat in the air. Now here's Mrs. Pilgrimage. So Aintrazi continues to ramp. We'll see if he ever wants to cash in that Hedron Archive or not. Couple of forest here for Ali. Looks like he has board in the Siege Rhinos.
A little surprising that he brought in the Siege Rhinos because Draper is not an Atarka red style deck. He can power through Siege Rhinos. It's not game over for him.
Now what we see for Ali as he plays the Wooded Foothills, another hand stuck on lands, nothing to ramp into. That's the problem here for Aintrazi. Looks like he may have already played a land for the turn, yeah, so it doesn't appear so he can play that Wooded Foothills. But either way, this is back to a game where if Aintrazi faces down a Butcher of the Horde, he's in some real trouble here.
Yes. Now, he's got a lot of looks at helping out a situation here. He does have the Hedron Archive. He can sacrifice the Scion at a moment's notice to scry, but he's got to find it pretty soon. I guess until Draper finds something in the air, Aintrazi has this mostly stabilized. The game's at least going to go on for a while. But Draper is now drawing very large.
Another Whirling Outburst, I believe. Yep. So 3 more goblins, but you can kind of see how ineffective that card is right now. At least on its own. On its own. In combination with stuff, I think it'll be pretty good, but at some point, I think we'll see Dylan start attacking, because I think he's going to have to. Siege Rhino and Hangerback Walker that draws off of that Hedron Archive.
And Siege Rhino makes it much more challenging for Draper to attack next turn.
Yep.
There's another big blocker in play, and the life swing makes trying to race much less attractive.
Aintrazi will draw another copy of Haven of the Spirit Dragon, but his dragon was exiled via Utter End. It might be Rhino time. And it is. So Aintrazi going to go up to 21. Draper will fall down to 15. And perhaps we'll see Hangerback Walker here for 2. Aintrazi going to play a land. Now here is Hangerback Walker for 2. So the ground is all sorts of gummed up. Hangerback Walkers are going to grow into 4/4s here for Dylan. Is it Butcher of the Horde time yet? No, Caves of Koilos. Along with a Battlefield Forge in hand there for Dylan.
And I do not feel like Dylan can really attack in this spot. I mean, he's allowed to. I think that it will go poorly for him.
It is a game action that he can take.
Especially any Alpha Strike here from Draper allows Aintrazi to block and trade and also get to scry, which is really important for him right now.
Aintrazi sacrificed the token, scry top card to the bottom. There's a Haven of the Spirit Dragon, just past the turn back. Hangerback Walkers, up to 5.
And that might feel a little preemptive there for Aintrazi, sacrificing there to the Scion so the Catacomb Sifter could scry. But Aintrazi is aware that if Draper finds a flyer, and especially if that flyer is Butcher of the Horde, he doesn't have that much time to work with. Even though it looks like the ground's pretty stable, and the ground is stable from Aintrazi's side, he knows there's a lot of draws on Draper's side of the table where his position becomes very bad.
And we're talking so much about Butcher of the Horde. The one thing that Ali doesn't even know is what's in my opponent's deck. Mardu is typically a deck that's been a dragon deck recently. So something like Thunderbreak Region could show up, Kolagon, anything could really show up here.
Yeah.
Hangerback Walkers are growing up to 6/6s. Well, Dylan reaching for the mana very quickly here. Aha!
And that's the kind of draw I was looking for, a flyer. Sarkhan is not nearly as bad for Aintrazi as Butcher the Horde would be, but this is still not the type of card Aintrazi wanted to see on the other side of the table.
No, just any flying threat is pretty bad news. Looks like Rhino is going to attempt to attack. Now, looks like Ali's trying to get a little bit more aggressive now.
I think Aintrazi has just drawn Ugin, and if he is planning on Ugin and minusing to take care of Sarkhan, the Siege Rhino is going to die anyway. So might as well see if, maybe Draper just takes an extra 4 points of damage or is willing to chump block or something. Might as well see.
Gets the Scry, because the Catacomb Sifter. Yeah, it's Ugin time. And Ugin's actually, so it's a pretty good draw for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's Ugin, so it's typically good anyway, but he's got all these Haven of the Spirit Dragons out there too.
Yep.
So this isn't going to be the first time I think we see this Ugin. It's going to tick down. It's going to take care of a lot of goblins. And the Sarkhan. Hanging back Walker. Going to become a 7/7. Didn't get a great look at Draper's draw that turn.
I believe it was Seeker of the Way.
Not very good right now. Just going to pass the turn back over to Aintrazi. Hedron Archive the draw. Looks like Ollie's going to get a little bit offensive here.
I love what Aintrazi's doing here. He doesn't really care about a big creature in play. He cares about a lot of Thopters. So he's not pumping his Hangerback Walkers in such a way where he gets to make this attack every single turn. Draper has to either take 6 or break open Aintrazi's Hangerback Walker without doing the same. And all of a sudden, Aintrazi's got a lot going on in the air. Suddenly, Butcher the Horde's a much less threatening draw from Draper's deck. So I love this management from Aintrazi. I think a lot of people get in this habit of just like, yeah, I'll just grow my Hangerback Walker. That's what it's here to do. Aintrazi realizes that the real prize here is getting his to break open for a lot without doing the same thing on Draper's side. And he set this up very nicely.
And he gets the scry.
He gets the scry for his trouble, too.
Yeah. Radiant Flames looks... it's tough to say what he wants to do with that, actually. But it looks like it's going to head to the bottom.
So Radiant Flames is bad on this board, but it's good insurance if Draper finds a way to break open one of his own Hangerback Walkers.
There's the Archive. Gonna cash it in. If one Radiant Flames is good.
Yeah, this is really nice insurance for Aintrazi to have. In case things go haywire, he has the opportunity to just kill everything, and he's still got an Ugin.
Yep.
Good spot.
Crackling Doom, the draw. Again, another one that's not particularly good right now.
This is the type of card where people are messing around with 3 and 4 or 5 mana threats and don't have a lot of haste, and they're just trying to play towards big stuff. You're going to see a lot of it. But one of the big problems with the card is Hangerback Walker. And you get into spots like this where it just cannot be cast.
Yeah. Wooded Foothills. Going to be sacrificed. I believe we have a scry on the stack. A Thought for Token jumped in front of that Hangerback Walker that was going after Ugin. Ali going to search up a Smoldering Marsh. It's the new red-black battle land. And now, I believe he will get the scry with the Catacomb Sifter. So, take a look at the top card, very quickly going to the bottom. Again, Ali feels pretty strongly about Catacomb Sifter's power. He's got 4 copies in his deck.
Mm-hmm. Well, he also, it's a lot of everything, It's mana acceleration. It's a good blocker. The synergy with Ugin is nice because it is devoid.
Yes. It has no color.
And technically has 2 of them, but I know what you mean.
Here come the beatdowns. Dragonlord Dromoka was the draw here for Ollie this turn. Ugin's going to go up to 7. Draper's going to end up taking 3 from that activation. There's Dragonlord Dromoka. A shoulder shrug and a 5/7. I've seen worse turns. And Aintrazi might be walking away with this one. Oh, I did it again. It's Dragonlord Slumgar again.
It's okay.
It looks just like Dragonlord Dromoka. I'm not even kidding. They're bad news either way.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm not going to judge you for mis-IDing the card. I don't know if I buy your excuse necessarily, but it's fine.
They look similar-ish when they draw them.
They are both gold cards.
They are.
With dragons on them.
That's twice in one match. I messed that up. That's just not acceptable.
It's okay. I would say new cards, but that's not.
That's not true.
That's not really what's going on.
That's
here.
not true at all. Let's see what's next. Oh, Seeker of the Way.
Nice.
A little outclassed right now. And Hordling Outburst, similarly outclassed.
Draper just firing out all of his bullets on the way out.
Yeah, might as well.
Bang!
Yep. Crackling Doom. Take that, Hangerback Walker.
And for my turn, a third ineffectual card.
Yeah. And Dylan, very nice. Going to give Ali all of the tokens. Going to do the work for him. This is part of the reason you didn't want to board in a card like Outpost Siege, play a longer game like this, because the cards are not particularly useful at this stage in the game. And Aintrazi is going to win this game and match here over Dylan Draper, 2-0. 5-color Eldrazi going to take care of Mardu mid-range. And for Aintrazi, off to a good start here.
Yes.
2-0 here in Indianapolis.
And this is, you know, if you're going to be good against a deck like Eldrazi, you need to be able to do one of two things. You need to be fast enough where you can beat them before they get their shop set up, or fast enough to pressure them while also being able to